Welcome to this celebration of success and achievement, because that's what today is. It's the day that we admit new fellows into the Academy. It's absolutely one of the high spots of the Academy's annual calendar. So thank you all so much for coming. This is a rather special year. Now, I don't say that because England have managed to get past the group stage of the World Cup, unusual as that is. I say it because it's a year of anniversaries, so it won't have escaped your attention. It's the NHS's 70th birthday, but more importantly, it's the Academy of Medical Sciences' 20th birthday. So it's NHS at 70 and the Academy at 20. And I would say, and I hope I'll persuade you in the next few minutes, that never has the Academy had a more important role to play than it does now. And so in the next few minutes, what I would like to do is just share a few reflections on the context in which the Academy is operating. I'll set out what I see as the opportunities, and then I'll mention a few headwinds, and then I'll give you a quick summary of what the Academy's been doing. And I'll do all that in 15 minutes, so don't be concerned about a great long speech. So I think this is a period of unprecedented opportunity in biomedical and health research. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm telling you things you know very well, but it does no harm, I think, to celebrate them because we all have the good fortune to be working in this field at this point in time. So just in case you'd forgotten, it took 10 years and cost $3 billion to sequence the first human genome in year 2000. Now, $1,000 in a day, the same thing can be done. So this whole field of omics is exploding. That's paved the way, in a sense, for this remarkable technology of replacing bad copies of genes with good copies of genes through gene editing, and that's already entering the clinic through somatic cell transfer, and early experiments are going on in early embryos. That, in turn, paves the way for the elusive goal of stratified medicine, which is alive and well in the field of cancer, and extending now to diabetes and undoubtedly going to extend to other disease areas. Digital technology, slow to be adopted, I think, by the healthcare system, but definitely upon us and without doubt going to transform how and where we deliver healthcare over the next decade. Cancers that we thought were untreatable now are treatable. And that's partly due to our ability now to know how to take the brakes off the immune system, but also how to precisely target T cells using gene modification to attack tumors. But the one that excites me the most, I have to say, is that the brain is beginning to yield some of its secrets. And so this figure relates to a paper in Nature a short time ago showing that polymorphism in the complement C4 gene was a risk factor for schizophrenia. And that wasn't just another example of inflammation in the brain. It was a role of complement in synaptic pruning during brain development. So the concept that some psychiatric disorders may have a developmental origin, I think, sheds a whole new light on that field and may create new opportunities to intervene. So enormously exciting opportunities, but of course the job isn't done, and there are some huge challenges that technology and medicine needs to address. There has not been a new class of psychiatric drug for 30 years. We don't yet have an effective treatment for dementia. AMR is a really serious global threat. We can't yet promote tissue regeneration in situ, and we haven't found a way really to have a big dent on the pandemic of obesity. So lots to do. What about the headwinds? Well, there are a number, and I do apologize for bringing the B word into this talk, but it's almost inevitable. We talked about it last year. And we're now marching towards the era, the moment of Brexit, early next calendar year. And we're all very concerned about the risks associated with that, but I think most of us believe that the biggest challenge is around people. The risk that we won't be able to retain and recruit the very best talent into biomedical and health research. The NHS, well, it's the focus of intense attention at the moment because of its anniversary. The new infusion of money is extremely welcome, but it remains an organisation under pressure and an organisation that is financially challenged. And so we need an NHS that is really receptive as a research partner, and that is tricky when it's trying to maintain a solvent bottom line. Universities, I think, are under attack in a way that I haven't seen in my career to date. They're under attack for sort of philosophical reasons in terms of their autonomy and independence. Some see them as a consumerist activity, just providing graduates with their degrees for a fee. But university funding of research is also vulnerable at the moment for reasons I won't go into, but anybody involved in university leadership will know what I mean. Career insecurity, that's not a new challenge, but it is a very living challenge, both for clinical academic careers, and we're seeing a worrying decline in the number of people choosing to go into those careers, as well as basic science careers, which are very insecure, and you know the inverse funnel that operates for people in those career paths. Now, I don't think at the moment we've got the balance wrong, but I think there are those who would be a little concerned that with the intense emphasis on the dividend of research, the impact of research, the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund resource, that there is a risk that we neglect discovery science, and we must not do that because it's so vital to feeding the pipeline with important discoveries. Industry is a very important partner for our agenda in biomedical and health research. And Brexit, of course, itself is something of a risk here. The NHS, if it fails to be a really willing partner, is another risk. So we need to make sure that the industry footprint doesn't decline further. And finally, the public distrust of experts, dating from that remarkable Gove statement that we've had enough of experts. So the public are vital to keep on side because ultimately the public fund what we do. And so we need to be very careful that the public don't mistrust us as a community. So I think there are some real headwinds that balance the opportunities that I've described. So let me now just spend the remaining few minutes running through, in very superficial terms, 6 things that the Academy's been doing in the last year or is poised and about to do. And I hope you'll see that they are designed to address some of the headwinds I've just described. Yes, no, that's perfectly fine. Slides over. So, six things. The first is to influence government policy. And I think we're targeting 3 areas there. The first, of course, is Brexit. And so we're engaging with a range of government ministers relevant to the Brexit process, as well as some senior European figures of relevance to this agenda. And I think what I would say is that the money isn't the big issue here. I don't think it ever was, and I think there's a reasonable chance that we will be part of Horizon Europe going forward, and it'll be some kind of pay and play arrangement by which we'll participate. The issue remains the people issue. And I think we've spent a lot of time thus far talking to our friends in government, people who sort of agree with us. And the agency that we've not, I think, devoted enough attention to is the Home Office, which is where the issues really reside in terms of a migration policy that will not just allow scientists to move, but will allow their families and dependents to move, and will allow junior researchers to freely migrate, because those are the people who are so instrumental in making these collaborative partnerships work. So I think we'll have a bit of extra attention focused on the Home Office and the migration policy going forward. The second government policy that we're focusing on is the 2.4%. So I hope you noticed it's a party manifesto commitment to move to 2.4% of GDP spent on R&D from the current position, which is around 1.8%. That's a big hike. And Sam Jimar, our Minister for Universities and Science, said he wants this to be his legacy, that we've secured the 2.4%. It's early in his office to say legacy, but that's what he's saying. And so we and the other academies are working with him to make the arguments why this commitment needs to be fulfilled, en route, I hope, to 3% of GDP, which is really where we need to get to. And then the third government policy is around the industrial strategy and the life sciences component of that. And a past president of this academy, John Bell, has been instrumental in shaping that, and we wish to play our part in supporting its implementation. So that's number one, government policy. The second is influencing research policy. And the latest report from the Academy was on the challenge of multimorbidity. I hope you've seen it. It's a really good report, the work led by Steve McMahon from Oxford. And that report makes 2 points, really important points. The first is that we need new research to better understand why diseases co-cluster. An aspect that I'm particularly fascinated by myself is why mental and physical conditions so commonly coexist in one patient, and the biology underpinning that. The second point the report makes is that our healthcare system and our healthcare workforce is not ideally configured to deal with the challenge of multimorbidity. We've become a little too specialist and siloed, and we need more fluidity, more amphibious healthcare workers who can readily straddle these disciplinary divides. The second research policy thing we've been doing over the last 12 months is organising a series of horizon scanning workshops across the country, from north to south and east to west, involving regional fellows as well as younger researchers, asking what is technology, what are the challenges technology is going to bring to us that we need to anticipate and be on the front foot in terms of thinking about their policy implications. And that's been a very interesting exercise, and we're currently distilling the findings of those workshops, and we'll be coming back to you with our thoughts a little later. And then finally, team science. We've been revisiting that issue because this was a report of the Academy a little time ago. Such an important issue that we reward and support team science, because what we do is a team sport, and so we need to make sure that it is appropriately recognised and rewarded. So that's the second. The third thing we've been doing, which the Academy has consistently done from its birth in 1998, is supporting careers, and particularly early career researchers, which, as you understand and appreciate, is absolutely vital to the health of our research agenda going forward. So our schemes that are designed to invest in pinch points in the career path when people might just fall off their career trajectory, those are continuing to work really well for clinical lecturers, for early career basic science researchers. The SUSTAIN programme to breed women leaders of the future, again going from strength to strength. And then our mentoring scheme. There's now over 800 mentor-mentee pairs, and I'm sure many of you in the room contribute to that very important activity to support young people as they find their way. So that's three. Number four is strengthening the interface between NHS, academia and industry. Again, something that the Academy spotted the importance of very early on and created a vehicle called the Forum, which brings together those three sectors. And indeed, the Forum had its 15th birthday very recently, and we had an event to celebrate that. It's so important that we manage to get a well-advanced conversation developing between these three sectors. And one scheme that I'm particularly excited about is a new leadership scheme that we're launching in the autumn of this year, which we believe is unique on the planet, and it's designed to breed people equipped to lead life sciences clusters. So it will take emergent leaders from NHS, academia and industry, put them into learning sets and put them through a part-time 2-year training program. That will include generic leadership skills, but most importantly, will give them real insight and understanding of the two sectors they don't come from. And that will be delivered in part by a project in year 2, which will allow them immersion in the sectors they don't come from, so that they will emerge with a real understanding of the other sectors, so that they can then bridge effectively and provide leadership across sectors. Fifthly, international partnerships, and I hope I don't need to persuade you how important that is, particularly in this particular moment in our national cycle or political cycle. God forbid that we're perceived as a Britain closing in on itself, closing its doors, becoming insular. And so with that in mind, we're putting extra energy into the international agenda and partnering in numerous ways. For example, the US National Academy of Medicine, we've had exchange visits in both directions. The president of that academy has been made an honorary fellow here quite recently. And they have a flagship annual lecture, which is really a symposium called the Rosenthal Lecture, and they've decided they want to hold that in the UK for the first time ever, which will be a joint venture with this academy, and the theme will be behavioural science. Of course, partnering very energetically with Europe, not least with the Federation of European Academies of Medicine, and that agency was struggling a little bit, and with some government money through the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, our Academy office was able to support the FEAM office, and that's been important. And the next president of FEAM is our current Vice President International, George Griffin, who I'll be saying a word about a little bit later on. And then finally, internationally, we're working in low and middle income countries, in all sorts of ways, funded by Global Challenges Research funding. But a particular niche, I think, that we're inclined to occupy is that of capacity building in those countries, so that fellows who get support and begin a research career have a structure within which to advance their career. And then finally, back to my point about the public dialogue. Two things have been going on in the last 12 months, one spilling over into the next. The first was looking at data-driven technologies and how people feel about their data being used when it's generated through those data-driven technologies. And then the second was how to have a good death. Now, it was Dan Quayle who said that predictions are always dangerous, especially when they're about the future. If there's one prediction you can make very confidently, it is that we will all die. And so this is a very important societal engagement, how to have a good death. And it's using really innovative technology, for example, a pop-up cafe offering a trip of a lifetime. And how do you want that trip to be for you? So I hope, listening to that, you will recognize that the Academy is engaged in many different ways and dimensions in trying to address the headwinds that I referred to and seize the opportunities that I've referred to. And I'm pleased to be able to tell you that the Academy is in a very rude state of health. Now, size and volume of activity is not everything, but if I tell you that the turnover of the Academy has doubled in the last 2 years, it's an indication that people want to invest in us and what we do. I should also say that the people who've made possible everything I've just described that the Academy is doing, of course, is its full-time staff. And we're lucky to have an outstanding staff, led by Helen here sitting on the front row with the senior management team members who are also here. If you don't know them already, I hope you have a chance to get to know them because they're outstanding people doing an outstanding job. But the Academy is made up of its fellows, and that's why today is such an important day, because we're celebrating the contributions and achievements of 48 new fellows. Just let me say to the new fellows that with this honour comes responsibility, and so we do hope and expect that you're going to play your part in helping to sustain the UK's remarkable track record in biomedical and health research and its translation into improved patient care and population health. So those were the remarks that I wanted to share with you and the perspectives that I wanted to share with you before moving on to the main event, which of course is the admission of those new fellows. And before I hand over to Philippa Saunders, the registrar, who has managed this process so expertly again, let me just make clear to all in the audience that this is a highly competitive process. We have now 410 candidates in the pool seeking election, and so you can see what a success it is for 48 to be elected. And the credibility of the Academy is made up of the fellows and their individual reputations, which is why we're so pleased with this year's new fellows. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and I'll hand over to Philippa, the registrar.